Everyone tonight to the Midnight Ride. This is a broadcast that I will say that I was hesitant to make and speak about because there's so many different things going on about the whole assassination and different footage being looked at. Seems like there's a lot of stuff going on that is unexplainable and weird. And so tonight I'm going to take this subject on, but a lot of you probably have no idea what I'm going to say about all this, but it's very sad for me to see that this happened. There's a lot of people out there that would say that Charlie Kirk is this or that, but either way, to see the kind of division that is taking place in the world over this thing was more than just an assassination. This is a symbol. This is a symbol and something. I believe it's a turning point, literally a turning point, no pun intended, for our country. So guys, stay tuned and we'll be right back.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. Who is able to make war with him?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to the Midnight Ride. My great honor is always to be here with you in the NYSTV studios with John Pounders and all of you once again for the Midnight Ride. Tonight, a very, very timely subject. Of course, the Charlie Kirk assassination. And it's very controversial, but we're not known to shy away from controversy. So that's what we will be doing tonight. So, John, it's good to be here as always.
Yeah, it is good to be here. And I hate, talking about these kind of subjects because there's going to be so many different kinds of people listening tonight, David. There's all types of people. There's people that are really mourning for the death of Charlie. There's going to be people that are glad that he's gone. And then there's the people that are into the conspiracy side of all of this stuff. And so tonight is going to be an interesting topic. It's not something that I like talking about is people's death, but I think you guys will get a closer understanding after all of this. I really do. I think that when we look at all this stuff together and after we look at your guys' comments and live chat and all of the different stuff, I think we'll come to a better conclusion based off of all this. So I'm really kind of excited about doing it because of that. But at the same time, it doesn't bring me any joy to talk about someone dying. It really, really doesn't. Not at all. Actually, this is a really sad moment for a lot of people, including some people that we know that actually worked for Charlie and know Charlie personally. So there's a lot to talk about, a lot of weird things, including in all this, David, a lot of weird coincidences that are taking place that we are going to discuss towards not about the middle of the broadcast, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But before we get started, guys, I really would like to say thank you so much for all of you who view our channel, and hit subscribe if you're just now new to this channel. We talk about topics every week that are very interesting here on the Midnight Ride. One thing that I want to plug, and then I'll hand it over to David, I started a new channel called Pounders Quest. It's on YouTube, and I'm interviewing people, all kinds of people. People that are believers, some people aren't believers, some people are literally Freemasons. Like there's a guy that I'm interviewing that claims to be a 33rd degree Freemason, still in the Freemasons. There's a Skinwalker Ranch guy. I've interviewed other believers, and of course, I'm going to have friends and stuff like that on there, but the variety of the interviews is based off of trying to understand different topics. So it's not all about what the Midnight Ride's about, but it is very similar topic. So if you want to go do that, the link is in the description. Go over there and subscribe because I'm no longer going to be shadowing the videos from that channel over here to Now You See TV, so you won't see them here anymore. So if you want to go check them out, you're going to have to go over there, and please do subscribe. I really appreciate it. It is awesome to see you guys over there if it's something you enjoy. David, I know you guys got stuff going on over on FOJC. Let us know about it.
Well, we're back to work, and tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central on the FOJC Radio Underground Church channel, Brian Reese and I will be talking about the return of pre-flood violence and the Second American Civil War. It'll be another timely, cutting-edge broadcast, and we invite all of you to join us for that if you so choose.
Absolutely. That'll be good, because I think tonight we're going to be touching on some of that here, because I think that this is actually what a lot of this represents. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started, guys. So this right here, obviously, is Charlie Kirk. And when I look at this picture, I see a young man. He's 31 years old. 31 years old. And I don't believe he's a fake or a clone or any of those things. I know people that know him, and I look at this man and I think there's a lot of bad things that people say about him. Some people say he's a Christian nationalist, which to the average ear, that doesn't sound like a bad thing. But when you look at it, through different perspective, it could be. And look, here's what I want to say about all of that, David. I think it's important not just to tell David and everybody else that I don't think there's anything wrong with a young man or a older man or any kind of man or woman that chooses to take their profession and make something godly out of it. And I don't know everything that Charlie Kirk said, but I've been paging through almost everything I could find of him for the last week. And I will say that if you can say honestly that this man didn't bring good into the world, then you're a liar. There's no way you can't. He championed for the unborn. Many young people in colleges, universities that have been almost demonized, brought to the Savior. There's maybe controversial things he said, but I didn't see that to be that controversial personally. I think that it's more just people wanting to cause a big uproar out of nothing. I don't know everything about the man. I know that he has maybe ties to people that aren't so savory. I mean, anybody in that kind of position of power is going to do that. And just, being in a picture with someone who you don't like doesn't mean anything. Like, there's people, I've taken pictures, I think just over the last few weeks, David, me and you alone have taken pictures with hundreds of people.
Oh, yeah.
And any of those people could bring up, see, I know this guy. I met this guy before. I know him. But they just took a picture. So we're going to leave all that stuff aside for a little while, and we're going to just think about this and think about his wife. There's a lot of really hardcore conspiracy theorists that don't think he died, or they think that he was a clone or wasn't a real person. But there's people that accuse me of being a clone, people that accuse me of not being a real person. In fact, there's a video going around of a lady that claims that because of I sold myself out for SpiracyCon, and the John you guys see right now isn't the same John that you used to see. And so I know that's not true. I can't prove it to you, but I know it's not true, and my wife knows it's not true. My family knows it's not true. And I pray to God that if something like this were to happen to me, that all of the people out there that are accusing of this won't do that to my wife, man. I look at his wife and I see pain. I saw their little children running towards their daddy type thing, like what happened to daddy. And I think about this stuff, and it is sad. It's super sad. So we need to be very sensitive, because nobody out there in internet land knows everything about what happened. None of you guys know that. None of you know that is a fake. I mean, I've seen the videos of a fake person in the casket. I've seen videos saying that it wasn't a real shot and all these different things. And I'm thinking, and I combed over a lot of stuff, and I'll actually show some ballistics videos here later that kind of see what happened. I'm not going to show the actual assassination because I don't want to see that again in my head. It was a disturbing thing to see. Although I did go through it and comb through the best videos I could find frame by frame. And it still haunts me in my mind to see what happened there. And so when we look at this stuff, we're going to look at it with the eyes of Charlie's wife might be watching this. Charlie's children may watch this one day. We don't know. And we're going to think about it like that, because we're going to go under the assumption that Charlie was a loving father and a loving man, and he was somebody that stood for something, and he did stand for something. And I believe his assassination was also a message. That's why it was done in the open. because the man walks around freely in his neighborhood. He doesn't need security when he's walking around. They could have done it any time, but they did it in a public place. And so we're going to discuss that a little bit. And David, I'd love some back and forth from you. I would like any kind of, discussing this aspect of it. If you have anything you'd like to add to it, I'm sure it would be appreciated.
Well, I likewise, I believe that Charlie Kirk was really murdered. And I am definitely a conspiratorial thinker. But, you have to, when you have theories, they have to be grounded in fact. And you have to think about the hurt that it would cause. And just like you say, if his wife or children would ever watch this, saying things like that could really be hurtful. So you want to be careful. You want to be careful. We don't have a license from God just to make stuff up because we think it might be intellectually enticing. But certainly many, many things that Mr. Kirk championed are hardcore Christian values that we certainly could wholeheartedly get behind. The stance on abortion, the transgender issue, and so many things. So with that, we can certainly say that he did do a lot of good in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at people that are really, and I know that there's the Sevens Mountains Mandate, that NAR, and all of the different people that are in that, but you got to look at it too. If God puts you in a situation where you are able to speak to the masses, that's the front lines is what that is. That's the front lines of war is what that is. Being on the front lines, being there face to face with people and being willing to say whatever it is that you're willing to die for. And obviously Charlie Kirk was willing to die for that. And you can look at that however you want, but you look at Daniel in the scriptures. Daniel was right up there with the leaders of Babylon, right up there with Persia and all those different, you have Daniel, and you have Joseph, who God put in a position to where he was there to serve the kingdom, but yet he stayed true. And so people can do that. Not everybody who is a little bit famous or has a little bit of a name is a fake person. You guys have to understand that. And I really think that it's important that we don't dehumanize somebody unless we know for sure. And I can tell you that none of us know for sure unless we were in his house and know him really, really personally. And so with that being said, I have a video that I'd like to play for you. I was speaking to Julian Stone. Many of you guys know who she is. Her husband works for Charlie and the family there for Turning Point. That's where she met her husband, is through there. So Julian Stone, they know the family. And so this is another reason that it's hard for me to get on board with the whole the guy's not real, it's all fake and all these different things, because there are people that know him, and you have to understand that this guy was a young man growing up and being very successful. At 31 years old, he's accomplished more than almost everybody listening into this broadcast right now at 31 years old.
Well, and John, something too that I never had any direct contact with Mr. Kirk, but I've talked with two people just since he passed. I've talked with two people that told me he was a Sabbath keeper.
He was.
Yeah.
There's a video of him actually talking about why the Sabbath is important to him and his family. So yeah, I mean, there's ties there. There's things that, we know that I can just see based off his fruit that something good was happening. Whether or not you can call it whatever, there are people that on these campuses that needed this kind of stuff. So we'll leave it at that, but I want to play this video. This is witness testimony. I asked Jillian a few questions before she sent this video. I just sent her the questions because she was getting ready to go somewhere, and she wasn't able to make it tonight. So I asked her the questions ahead of time, and that's what I'm going to play for you guys. So here we go. I'm going to play it for David as well. Maybe. Here we go.
Hey you guys, it's Jillian Stone. Thanks so much, John and David, for having me on the Midnight Ride tonight to talk about Charlie Kirk and all of this craziness that's going on in our world. My husband and I have had an indirect and direct relationship with Charlie over the years. My husband's being way closer to Charlie than I was. I started out in politics actually when I was around 18 years old, and I actually met Charlie when I was 19. in, and I was very active in Turning Point for a time for, the Turning Point faith. And also I ended up being a chapter president for a very short time when I was in college. Although the Lord, parted me from politics and told me that I needed to go in the direction that I am going in today, I do have a lot of respect for Charlie and for the legacy that he left for the youth today to follow after. He was a great role model. As far as my husband goes, he has worked for Charlie directly and indirectly in his companies for around 6 years. And actually, Charlie complimented a lot of the stuff that he does as far as music production on the side. And he was always so very kind to my husband, and in passing, he respected my husband's work for his company, and he worked very closely to Charlie's direct team. I do want to talk about some other questions that Jon laid out for me today. One of them was Charlie worried that this would happen? And I would say no. Charlie was very fearless. He was very much involved with his faith. He loved Jesus, and he loved witnessing to people and sharing the gospel whenever he got the chance. He knew as well that he had established a legacy for Turning Point USA that would be sustainable if something like this were to have happened. What was the impact on my husband and I? For me, I was very sad, but I felt this overwhelming peace. I just knew that no matter what happened, the Lord has got this. As far as Matt goes, the way that he took it, he's going through it. He's very sad. And as a wife, you can only do so much to ease the pain that your husband feels. And so in this time, I'm just trying to be a helper and a listener to him. Matt's doing okay, though. We're doing okay. The Lord has been so good to us, and this movement and his job is not in jeopardy at all. It's going to continue, and I believe that it's going to continue to be very strong and very successful in leading the youth, not only to Jesus, but also towards a better lifestyle. My thoughts on people who are glad or rejoicing for Charlie Kirk's death, it really does say a lot about the overall state of this nation. The explicit in-person experience of seeing just how demonized my generation is. Gen X and millennials have raised some of the most violent people of all time. What I do know is that there is a serious mental health crisis, a serious demonization crisis in our nation that is literally taking hold of our youth. Jon asked me to talk about some of the conspiracies around Charlie Kirk's death. And I'll tell you one thing, I was really angry at people who claimed that Charlie was a hologram or it was AI. Knowing that there are people out there who watch the execution in 4K high definition and then having the desensitized and inhumane response to view Charlie as not real, as it was fake, was a hologram or AI, I'm disturbed by those people. At what point are you going too far? But moving on, do I believe that something fishy was happening? The answer is yes. And I want to respect Charlie and his family as much as possible, because the main thing is we only have, as the general populace, so much information. The FBI said that they were purposefully covering things up and they were not releasing specific information to the public. Charlie Kirk's best friend, Candace Owens, she was Charlie's best friend. And she thinks that something fishy was going on. You can see it in her eyes. You can see it in her work. She is a loyal friend. And she is a truth seeker. And she wants justice. There are a lot of different a lot of different things here. A gunman, the gunman, is he really the gunman, or is he the sacrificial lamb? Why is it that his camera footage that was released by the FBI, why is it different? Why is his face different than the guy that they actually caught? Why is it that it took 33 hours before this shooter was turned in? Was this a government setup, or was this like I love quoting Prison Break, the TV show Prison Break, and was this something like The Company? Is there a possible Israel connection? What about the private jet that was up in the air and turned off illegally its location radar for an hour? What I will say around all of these things, do I 100% believe them? I'm open to it. I really am open to it. We don't know. We really don't know right now. There's so much little information out there. But I will say this. If the Lord wills us to know, he will find a way to get us to know the truth. The Lord is a very trustworthy source on this. If he wants justice for Charlie, he will get justice for Charlie, whether he uses Candace or Michael Savage or Tucker Carlson or even the government itself. We have no idea. But if the Lord wants that truth out there, we may never know the truth. But if he does want that truth out there, he will let us know. And I think that this final question that John asked me to address was really great. And the question is, how will this affect the United States? I think that it'll affect us in one of two ways. One, it could have a negative effect, really negative effect. It could stir up the spirit of sloth, spiritual laziness, cause us to cower. It could cause further alienation of different political groups and people groups. It could stir up violence where we least expect it. People who profess Christ could start, doing things that aren't so Christ-like. Two, could go a completely different way. And I truly believe that this will happen based on what I've seen. I've seen atheists start reading the Bible for the first time since Charlie Kirk's assassination. I've seen people want to give their life to Christ. I've seen people want to change the way that they think about the world because of this event. So I see that a revival will happen. This could inspire more public witnessing for Jesus. I think that it could inspire more courage in this nation. I think that it could ignite a valiant spirit in us. And I really hope that that does happen. For me, I'm just hoping that everyone is willing to just look to the Lord and to look to Jesus. The Feast of Trumpets is coming up, and it is a big holiday. It's a great thing to observe if you're new to it. And I'm really excited to announce my ebook later this week and how to emphasize battling to win over spiritual warfare in your house. This is what the Feast of the Trumpets is about. It's a declaration of war to the enemy. It is. And it is so cool because a lot of people think about, the trumpets are in Revelation. Well, little do you know that the trumpets and the symbolism of the trumpets are everywhere in the Bible. There are so many great stories revolving the trumpets and the overall victory of the Lord. So that's all that I have for you guys today. I hope that blessed you, and I hope that it gave you some answers and maybe allowed you to get to know me and my husband a little bit more. But I love you guys. Thanks so much, John and David, once again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the Midnight Ride.
All right, guys, there you have it. That's from Jillian Stone right there. And I just want to say this. There's a live chat going, and there's going to be comments in the section. And remember that everything you say in any comment, first off, the people are getting fired for some of the stuff they say. It's being recorded. Some people are losing their visas over it. I mean, it's like you need to be careful. And a lot of these people are saying that they're questioning things, but really, ultimately, it's slander to accuse people of stuff that you don't have proof of. It's 100% slander. There are some very weird things about this that us conspiracy theorists can get behind, for sure, that are weird, that are facts, and you can see them. But some of this stuff is unfounded and slander because you don't know. And if you did know, then prove it. Otherwise, shut your pie hole, quit slandering people. We can discuss things and show evidence, do all that, but we're not going to slander people here. This is not what we want to do. And I think that the time for that really in public, people need to understand that everything you say is being recorded and being everything on there. You guys need to be very, very careful about that. But what she said here that really resonated with me in all of this is what's coming after, and we'll talk more about that. But David, did you have anything you wanted to comment on after listening to Jillian's video here?
Yeah, and I believe that only after we understand there was a real Charlie Kirk that really was killed can we understand the conspiracy that was behind that. And a lot of that is just disinformation to cover up what we really need to know. And right now, we haven't had really enough time to look at all of those things, to analyze them. But I know there's going to be a lot of people have a lot of eyes on this, and there's going to be things that they're going to come out in the future, in the very near future. Now, I want to say this also, that I am not naive, and I could there's things Mr. Kirk advocated I could disagree with and do, but I don't think this is really the time and place for that. But I would like to read in Philippians chapter 1, beginning in verse 12. Paul said, "But I would you should understand, brethren, that the things which happened unto me have fallen out rather unto the furtherance of the gospel, so that in my bonds in Christ are manifest in all the palace and in all other places. And many of the brethren in the Lord, waxing confident by my bonds, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. Some indeed preach Christ, even of envy and strife, and some also of goodwill. The one preach Christ of contention, not sincerely, supposing to add affliction to my bonds, but the other of love, knowing that I am set for the defense of the gospel. What then, notwithstanding every way, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is preached, and I therein do rejoice, yea, and will rejoice." And it is the gospel that saves people. Nobody is a perfect person, and it is the gospel that is the power of God. And Mr. Kirk did preach the gospel, and it was a straight gospel. So I thank God for that. I thank God for that, and every believer should thank God for that. And like I've said on FOJC regularly, if your drunken uncle told someone about the gospel and they got saved, it'd be a real conversion because the power's in the message. So we need to rejoice, and I don't rejoice when a false gospel's preached, but when the real gospel is bringing people to saving faith and new birth, I'm thanking God for that.
Yeah, and what's beautiful about this is, like, I can tell when we do broadcasts like this how impactful they're going to be by the amount of trolls that show up, the demons that get stirred when things start being talked about that are life-changing and could be powerful to people, because people are going to miss this because they're so entranced in their own train of thought. They think, okay, I know it all. I know these guys are this, whatever, but that's a foolish spirit won't listen to things. I mean, we're not even, a few minutes into this broadcast, and there's already people that literally just completely throwing off everything we said because they believe this or that. It's like, that's the kind of people that are going to end up one day, if you really look at it, they're going to be the ones that just show who the light is, because when you have people like that acting out, that's the kind of stuff that shows who they are. And when the Christians, their results are different. Like, I'm just thinking about this. Remember the George Floyd thing when everybody rioted right after that? Like, I'm talking like riots. And then after Charlie Kirk, you have prayer circles, prayer vigils and stuff. So there's a big difference in the spiritual realm there, which leads me to what I was talking about, what Jillian said at her last point, where she talked about something's getting ready to change. And I really believe, and I feel this, I felt it actually before Charlie Kirk, and we've talked about this before in many broadcasts, that there's been a shift that has taken place spiritually. And I really do believe that, and I think that what's going to happen from all of this, and I don't know for sure, but when I look at the symbolism behind Charlie Kirk, which we're going to talk about, there's a lot of weird stuff going on with that symbolism that lead me to believe that for sure this is more than just a man that was shot. This is something much deeper. And so what we started to see, like almost right after this whole thing, are weird signs, and I'll talk about that. But I want to show you guys something. So I went online and I thought, if there's something to some type of revolution type thing that's going to be taking place, there's going to be signs, there's going to be symbols, because I do believe, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, but a lot of these people are programmed people. They're programmed multiples. Russ Dizdar talked about these people, but other people have talked about even Albert Pike discussed these people, and we're going to get to that. So I want to show you, this is the first thing that I looked at. I looked online and I'm like, God, show me something. Let's see if there's signs, whatever. And this could be something. I want to get David's take on it because David has looked at some of this stuff before. But this is a magazine called Eugene Weekly. And this is a trans person on the front here. It says, as the Trump administration attacks trans people, some queer folks are armed and ready to bash back. Now, the first thing I saw was the way that this trans person was sitting on here and their positioning. And then when I looked at this, I immediately, in my mind, the first thing that came up was the hanged man, because of the way the legs are crossed, because of the way the arms are crossed. But this is the exact inverse of the hanged man. The hanged man is supposed to be, let me put this on here so maybe you guys can see what I'm trying to say here. So the hanged man, upside down, the man has his arms behind his back, folded in a way to where the triangle, his head and his arms make the triangle, and upside down to where his left leg is placed behind the right leg. This is the exact opposite of that, where the right leg or the left leg is placed behind the right leg here, but then you have the upside down or right side up, and the arms are crossed in the front. And there is a meaning to this. I got these meanings from the tarot. Let me read this. It says, the hangman serves as an example to the presumptuous, and his position indicates discipline, the absolute submission which the human owes to the divine. Considering alchemically, the hangman shows the sign of personality. So the exact opposite of this, which is what I looked up, is this, and this was on pagangrimoire.com, but I looked it up in also the one of the tarot books that I have access to. And the difference between this, the exact opposite of what I read you, is resistance, stalling, martyrdom, time to move forward, and missed insight. And so this is one of the symbols that I see. I'm sure that if you guys comment, let me know more that you guys see, but you're going to start seeing them. I'm also seeing, because this represents the 12th letter of the alphabet, of the Hebrew alphabet. Let me go back here so you guys can see this symbol. This symbol right here, and I believe this is called the Dalet. I believe, I could be wrong on that. It could be I can't remember off the top of my head, but this symbol is widely used in a lot of their publications as well, even the way people have their hands on their face, and just even the Antifa flag has a very similar shape to this thing. And I could be looking into stuff. I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on it and what you might have found. But if this is a mental thing, if this is something that is triggering people on purpose, there's going to be signs. There's going to be something that and this is a publication that would go out to a lot of the people. Interestingly, when Charlie Kirk was speaking, I don't think it's a coincidence either. He was saying, they were asking the question, how many trans shootings, mass shootings have there been? And he said, are we counting, he's like, how many have there been? And I don't remember exactly the wording. I should have probably wrote it down, but you guys can go back and hear it if you like. And as soon as he started talking about that was the moment that he was shot, was when that was talked about. Now we're learning that the supposed shooter, which I don't know that I believe he was the shooter or not, his partner or roommate was a trans person, and the trans person would not comment on whether or not being trans had anything to do with the attempt. And I saw that earlier today, about an hour ago, actually, before this broadcast, about how they might have felt about it. So there's definitely a connection there. There's a lot of crazy things that have gone on with this just this year, and we'll discuss more about that. And I want to lay this out before I have you discuss this, David, because I want to show you what I think could be happening. This
Go
is
right ahead, sir.
all right. This is Albert Pike, and he was a Freemason. He was the Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite, and he was also lawyer, poet, general. I mean, you name it. He's one of the only people with a statue. I think his statue might have got torn down in the riots, but he was one of the only people with a statue left in D.C., 33rd degree Mason. And this is something that is supposed to him be writing this in a letter to Mazzini. And this is what it says. So we're going to read it. And it says, "We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists." And this is about World War III, post-World War III. This is when they're first, before this, the Zionists and the Muslims will fight a bloody war and turmoil. And then this happens. It says, "We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origins of savagery, and of most bloody turmoil." We also, this book that most of you guys may have heard of it, maybe you haven't. I don't even know if you can get copies anymore now that Justice has passed, but it's called The Black Awakening, The Rise of the Satanic Super Soldiers and the Coming Chaos. And he detailed what he called these super soldiers that are waiting, basically sitting in limbo, waiting for the orders, waiting for the trigger, is what he called it, a trigger, because they work off these trigger points. And David, before I go on here, I would love to get your take on the idea of these people being possibly branded underneath this swarm of nihilists, this swarm of possible being unleashed on super soldiers, being unleashed on society.
Well, in the scripture, Genesis 6, verse 11 and 12, it says, "The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth." And I'm getting into we're going to be talking about this a lot tomorrow night, but it's a biblical fact that genetic corruption breeds violence. And I was talking to a trans person who I believe was genuinely born again, and was telling about the extreme amount of hormones that they have to be injected with. And this, you talk about roid rage. There's a tremendous capacity to burst into a rage and lose control just because of the tremendous hormonal change that they undergo. And I mean, we have a documented track record of the trans individuals involved in these shootings. Nashville, Minnesota. I mean, there's a track record here. And these people are being manipulated. They're being manipulated, they're being jacked up, and they're being funded by people. And they are going to be, they're kind of the Oswalds of this whole thing. There are people that are wanting to use these individuals for their own ends. And therein, I believe, we're going to see the conspiracy that's going to unfold. Now, what I believe is going to change, what we've seen here in America is the left are bullies. You know, we've seen, they'll keep the white people away from the voting booths by intimidating them and stuff like this. And they'll run up and intimidate people in public. Well, I think now the right is going to start speaking up. And they got a right to speak up, but this is inevitably going to cause conflict. Mm-hmm. And the rhetoric, I saw Mullah Umar and her rant on Charlie Kirk. My goodness, it's scary. And there was a montage that someone put together of young people, college kids, rejoicing in the death and just rejoicing on it. And not just one or two, but gobs. And I guess that TikTok is full of this. And I tell you what, the left isn't going to go away. They're there for their ideology. And the clash that's coming is inevitable. It's inevitable.
Yeah, I agree with you there. There's going to be, I feel like a dual, maybe triple kind of revival, which is weird. And when I say revival, it's not always a good revival, but I think that we're going to see the dark side really rear its ugly head, because if their marching orders are now, on a post I made, David, on Facebook, there were people commenting on there, things that I can't believe that they said, but like they're saying the revolution is going to be televised, and screw Charlie Kirk and all these different things.
Yeah.
Like he deserved to be dead. Like these are things going around right now. So you have this type of people that feel confident in champion people's death, which is absurdly evil in my opinion. And then you have the people who are going to be, like you said, the opposite, who are going to fight back, right? They're not gonna be take it anymore. I think Elon Musk, and I heard some priest even saying that the time for tolerance is over. So the time
Yeah.
for tolerance, they're done with it, right? And we'll see if that actually happens. I feel like a lot of horrible things have happened in the past few days, but you're going to see both of those. And then, like David's saying, there's been young college-age students that are just completely shifting their faith towards Christ, looking it up for the first time. So there's his death brought about a lot of good things, but as well as a lot of bad things. And hold your horses, people in the chat. We're going to talk about the 33s, but I want you to remember that 33 isn't always a bad number just because the Masons have it for their degrees. Jesus used it first, okay? So we'll talk about that in a minute, but we're going to discuss why the 33s are everywhere, because like I said before, I'm going to say it again, this was a public response. This is something that you need to know, and we're going to talk about it. A lot of people that are listening, they're never going to know because they're just going to close their ears off. They don't care. They think it's all fake, but whether you think it's fake or not, the message is real. It doesn't matter if it's a movie. It could be a movie in front of your face that you're supposed to believe is real. The message is still real, people. It doesn't matter if the people are real and all the scene. It doesn't matter. The message is real. And that's what I think is important to understand. David, did you have something else you wanted to add?
No, John, you go right ahead.
Okay, so we've been seeing this over the past, here, I'm going to bring this up for you guys here. So we've been seeing things like this over the past few days. I'm not going to play the video because I think it's horrible to watch. There's a lot of weird things about, this girl. Some people say it's not the same girl that they're talking about, whatever, or blood flow doesn't work like that. But I watched the video. I didn't watch the whole thing because I was like, man, this is great. I feel like I've seen so many people die in the last few days because of X and because of social media that I really don't want to be desensitized to seeing it happen. But whether or not, like I said, it doesn't really matter. The symbolism is there. This is a guy that's been felony several times, went to prison for aggressive things, and has been let out over and over and over again. He murders some little Ukrainian girl, and blood's all over the place. None of these people do anything in the subway. In fact, the lady there with her bag clenched, she just takes her bag and walks off as this girl's bleeding out on the floor. This guy right here in the gray sees the knife in the guy's hand. He's looking right at it and sees what's happening. The guy in the back does nothing as well. And this is the state of the world we're in. And no matter where you're at, I don't care if you're on a bus or whatever. I was in, and Visual Servants was there, and he can describe what happened too. But we were in Pigeon Forge, the island, and this was last weekend, I believe, maybe, I can't remember what day it was we were there, but we were outside, and our wives and some of the children were in one of the stores, and we're standing outside kind of waiting. It's a beautiful weather. If you guys knew the weather the last few weeks, the weather was wonderful. So we're standing outside, and I think a couple of the kids were with us out there. And as we're looking on towards this alley, okay, so we're in front of the store, and there's an alley that goes through where there are bathrooms in the alley, and it's like there's workers over there, like near the maintenance places, and there's people in this alley. And me and Brian are standing out there talking, and we start hearing this yelling, like people like yelling, and this guy's like yelling at these people in the bathroom. And so I'm looking over there, I'm like, are these guys joking, Brian? What's going on? So we're kind of like paying attention. And then these three guys come out of the bathroom and start following this young man out from the alley, actually walking right towards where myself and Brian are. The guy's yelling, challenging him to a fight. And these are young men. They all look like they are ready to scrap. They don't look like they're wearing the little polos and shirts tucked in. They're ready to go. And it looked like one guy had something in his hand. And so I told Brian, I said, look at all these people watching. There's like 20 people literally watching this go down, and there's somebody even filming, it looked like, from the other side of the alley. And I said, Brian, go take these kids and put them inside that store. Go inside the store for a minute. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, like, I got to break this up because they could pull out guns. Somebody else could get shot. all of these things. So I go up to them and simply say, guys, listen, we're not going to fight here. It's not worth going to jail over, going to prison. Anything could happen. And the 3 guys that were approaching, I grabbed their hands and shook their hands. I was like, you guys go that way. And the other guy was like, get your stuff and you go that way. And they did it. They obeyed me right away and they did it. They just went off their separate ways. Something that any normal citizen can do is just break up a simple fight. I'm not saying get up in the middle of people stabbing each other, but if you see something's happening like this right here, if one of the people who trained in life-saving tactics, they might have been able to help this girl. I don't know for sure. I don't know where all she was stabbed at, but nobody even tried to help her until a long time after that. People finally rushed to her assistance. And man, when I look at stuff like this, it just disturbs the fire out of me. But this is becoming normal. You saw what happened in Chicago recently and what's happening in some of these crazy cities that are just run by absolute, I don't know what's going on there. I can't speak for what it's run by. I don't know, but I can tell you that it's not good. And you go to these cities and you're seeing people get beat. You're seeing constant reminders of this every single day on the freaking news. Somebody's getting beat up, and it's always like in this case, the small white girl, Charlie Kirk, the basically a major symbol for Christianity for a lot of people. You have like regular people getting beat up in the streets, so they're creating this, not only this left side, right side paradigm, but there's also a racism element involved. And I'm not saying they're trying to create racism, but the fact is that this stuff does happen to white people all the time, but they're just now, the news is just now covering it. Before that, it was all the other way. It was all the black people. They only covered when black people got something happen. So it's always, you can see where the media kind of takes its toll on humanity by choosing which stories it wants to cover. But this is a horrible story to even really think of. On top of that, you have these people right here, like, that are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. This guy's a human sciences guy, and I think he ended up getting fired for it. But then there's all of these people. I just recorded videos, and you have this crazy lunatic here in this video that literally is laughing and cheering for the death of this. And like he came back. They found out who he was, by the way, and that he came back and they found out, and he was like scared for his life because of what he did, like because people were threatening him. He's got a wife and kids of his own, and he pray for Charlie Kirk and his wife is what he's saying. But who in their right mind, what kind of dad, father is going to cheer when another man who's a father gets shot in front of everybody? He's not doing anything violent. He's not hurting anybody. He's speaking. He died for what he said. But this man chose to cheer when everybody else was down on their heads, hoping not to catch a stray bullet. This lunatic's cheering. But you have people like that have been inserted into society. I used to think that before it wasn't a very big amount of people, and I still don't think it's that big, but I know how social media works. I know how the news works. They choose to hone in on these crazy people to make it look like it's normal for people to behave this way. And I think what happened was, and this is the playbook you see in a lot of different cultures, those small groups of minorities that were, completely crazy. And when I say minorities, I'm not talking race. I'm talking people with blue hair that trump around and act crazy. Like, those people exist, but there's not as many of them as they laid you on to believe. But because we've been desensitized to this stuff over and over again, we've seen them over and over again on the news and on the media and on the social media, there are people that are starting to just go ahead and go along with it, think it's normal to hate somebody for preaching positive values on campuses, think it's normal to have abnormal to have conversations and want to somebody dead. That's the kind of people that we're raising in these stinking universities. And I do believe something's got to be done. A lot of people would say, oh, you're a Christian nationalist because you believe that we need to do something. Absolutely not. I just believe that as my duty as a man of God, and hopefully yours as a man of God or a woman of God, is to take dominion in at least some area that you're in. I don't care. I don't know what you do, but if you're at the school, take a little dominion there. If you're working at an electrical company, take a little dominion there. And I'm not talking about dominion for the conservative state. I'm talking about dominion for the kingdom of God. We need to be setting up our areas and doing things that are righteous in our area. And a lot of the people that are complaining, oh, Charlie Kirk's a Christian nationalist and he was this or that. What do? You sit on your chair and you look at the computer and you talk smack. you slander people. I'm not saying that the man was perfect, but in general, the fact is he stood for positive values, and we have to remember that. And a lot of these other people that are doing this evil stuff, they're not standing for positive values. I don't want to be lumped in with those people, that's for sure. But I also don't want to be presumptuous about what's actually happening here. And so we're going to talk about more here in a minute. But David, did you want to comment on that before I move on to my next slide here?
Yeah. We're at the time of the fall feast. And every year at the fall feast, the demonic come out and rebel. And I know here at our ministries, the attacks just absolutely go crazy around this time. You'd see stuff you wouldn't believe. And right now, the dark powers are really, really strong. And carnal Christians and demoniacs, they'll attack. And the main thing is hurt somebody. If you can't hurt them physically, attack them, defame them, hurt their ministry. And it's a demonic spirit. And you can see this manifest as clear as day. And we've been watching this, and you see it every year at the time of the Feast of Tabernacles. And we really need to watch and pray, because it ain't over. Mm-hmm. We're still going to see a lot of this. And it's nothing that God is surprised about. You know, he's bigger than all of that, but we are going to have to take it serious and pray, and we're going to be fine.
I agree, and I think people really need to realize that, look, Charlie Kirk is one man, but we should all be doing something in our arena. We really do need to do that. I think that it's important that instead of just criticizing everybody, that we need to be in our arena doing something. With that being said, it's time to get to the weird part, guys. It's time to get to the part that makes you go, interesting. So a lot of you have waited patiently for this part, and I do, but like I said, we're going to handle it with grace, but we're going to show some things that are very strange that lead me to believe that there's a lot we're not being told about this whole thing. So here we go. The first very strange thing to me is the etymology of the name Charlie Kirk. This tells me a lot right here. Etymology is like one of the key foundations of the Bible. The people's names mean something. What happens when they get named something different means something, and what happens when they die is named something. You know, there's names mean something here. And this is the etymology of Charlie Kirk. Charlie, familiar form of Charles, masculine proper name from French Charles, from medieval Latin careless, from Middle High German Karl, literally man, husband, or free man. Kirk, church, circa 1200, surviving as a Northern England and Scottish dialect word from a Scandinavian source such as Old Norse kirkja, church, hence Kirkland, churchland. Church goes back to ecclesia, authority, power. So this guy's name literally meant free man or man of the church, man church, the man of the ecclesia. And this dude was assassinated at 31 years old in front of everybody in the world. And you can say, oh, you know, etymologies don't mean anything. They do mean something. Whether they set that up to happen or not, people don't get it. People don't get it, David. They're like, well, they set these things up. They don't set them up. God sets them up. Yeah. Everything's ordained by God. Even when you find gematria and things that happen, it's not a coincidence. It's not there's some mathematician over there in the corner. Oh, if we assassinate Charlie Kirk on this day, then this will happen, and it's 88 days after this. That's not the way it goes. Forgive my nerd and my little mathematician, because I'm a math guy too, and I don't talk like that. But anyways, they're sitting there doing their math. Nobody's doing that. This is ordained. Like everything that we have is ordained by God to happen. This is a sign that something big is taking place. And when we see a man whose name represents Freeman Church, the Freeman Church that is literally assassinated in front of the entire world, it causes a wave that just completely changes. I mean, in my opinion, things have changed. Things are going to change. You're going to see that things have changed. David, I got more, but what do you think about that?
Well, something that we've talked about, and I've talked about this for years, is the coming persecution of Christians. And something that would symbolize that, you know, the man of the church being killed, there is so much anti-Christian rhetoric. And it's just direct talk from a lot of these groups, from your trans groups and your Antifa groups. It's not veiled at all. And this is what's coming, and this and a lot more.
Agreed. Before I play this video, I got my slides a little out of order, so bear with me for just a second. I'm actually going to
And that's an issue too, because what I can tell you
play this video.
is
but I'm
that
actually
this
gonna
is
move it. I'm sorry, my guys. For some reason,
either a picture.
I have a habit of mixing my slides around. I'm not as organized as what you guys might think, and if you think I'm organized at all, you're wrong. So here we go. So this is more weird stuff. Okay, so here's a picture on this far left. This is 47, 47, 47. So all those together equal 33. I'll do the math real quick. 4 times 3 is 12. 2 plus 1 is 3. 7 times 3 is 21. 2 plus 1 is 3. 33. You hear them announcing 33-hour timeline of catching the suspect. 33-hour manhunt. Charlie Kirk's name, guys, is 33. Okay, look at this. Charlie Kirk's age was 31, a numerical of shot dead. Name Kirk total 64. This is with other kinds of gematria. And the standard simple gematria, if you just take a C and you go A, B, C, and then you go with the H, you go, all that. I did the math myself. I looked and did it 5 times just to make sure I was right. 33 is the name. So 33 is what his name equals. Now, a lot of people, when they hear 33, they think of Freemasons. I don't think of Freemasons when I hear 33. I think of literally it being encoded in every part of our lives, including our 33 vertebrae. Jesus died at 33. I mean, there's so many correlations to 33 that the Masons, of course, took that number and used it. They use everything that makes sense as their numbers. But does that mean he was a Freemason? It doesn't. And even if he was, does that mean that he knew everything about it? And he, probably not. Most people that are in Freemasons have no idea what they're involved in. They really don't. And was he one? No proof of that. I've never seen any proof. I looked at records. That would be something that the Freemasons would be right now saying, Charlie Kirk was one of our guys. He was a great guy. That's what they'd be saying if he were a Freemason openly. Was he a part of a different secret society that's more secret? I don't know. Are all those secret societies bad? That I don't know either. A lot of people will say they are, but I don't know. I'm not going to sit and slander things I don't understand. But the point is, 33 in general could represent the death of Messiah. 33. That's when he died, was at 33 years old. And so is it a coincidence it took 33 hours to find it? Did they put that there on purpose? Maybe. Maybe not. But, I mean, that would seem like an easy one to plant. It's hard to plant somebody's name being 33 right away, if they're born that way. But 33, like I said before, a lot of people really take 33 to mean something evil, but the enemy always twists things into evil. In my opinion, this is what is kind of happening. It could be happening here. I don't know. I mean, it could be they're all Freemasons and they're doing this, but I don't necessarily buy that. I think that a lot of the Freemasons are in control of the narrative. There's some very weird things about this whole thing, very strange that that I don't quite understand and probably won't understand. And I'll give you insight into what I'm talking about. It's not the video footage of him getting shot, because I know how special effects work, and that he had a lot more blood than just a single shot. Now, I know in movies they can make blood gush, but in order to do that, what you guys have to know is they have to make all fake skin on the person. They actually have to shoot a tube that goes all the way through that shoots blood out, and they have a machine. So like when you're seeing in movies somebody just spraying blood out everywhere, there's a person behind them with a machine hitting a button, spraying it out. Now, there are things that can make blood trickle out that you can hide in prosthetics and stuff like that, but this is more than trickling out. If you saw the video, it's very horrific in what it actually looks like. But so I know that there are coincidences here that are weird, and like Jillian said, there's things about this that are strange. You saw people behind him making hand symbols. I don't know what that's about. Why was this guy that was reported on a roof allowed to stay on the roof? I don't know what that's about. And there's a lot of things about this that just don't make sense. And I think that it's possible we have a patsy here. It's possible. I mean, it's not the first time that it's happened that I know. I don't think it is anyway. What do you think, David?
Well, the original thing about the number 33 that got the Dark Realm all fizzed up about it is there when the children of Israel were going in to take the land under Joshua. On the east side of the Jordan, there were 2 Nephilim kings took down, Sihon, the king of the Amorites, and Og, the king of Bashan. On the west side of the Jordan, there were 31. They're specifically listed there in the scripture in Joshua. There were 33 Nephilim kings taken down. That is what they're still sore about, and that is why we see the left of the dark realm, whatever you want to call it, use this number 33 because they're really ticked about it.
Yeah, I agree. And when I talk about 33, David, a lot of people, I want to get your take on this because a lot of people are going to be like, well, John's doesn't know what he's talking about. Maybe not. I maybe not know what I'm talking about, but I do know that 33 is a biblical number as well. So like we can't automatically put it as a Freemasonic number just because they use it. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I wouldn't dispute that. And that number 33, and of course Freemasonry, this is used throughout the dark realm. It's used in the New Age, in the occult, and various realms. And certainly you can't rule out the Freemasons either, but I think it's a little early. I know it is for me. I don't have enough context to have eyes on this to develop a full-blown conspiratorial theory, and there could be one, but I don't think the theory is that Mr. Kirk was a clone or anything like that. I think once we eliminate that, we can begin to see these deeper agendas and maybe get an idea just what's going on here.
Yeah, and I do think, David, and I believe there's no way to really know anything right now 100% what happened, but there's definitely weird stuff surrounding this. So the idea that a higher power in our world order, even in some kind of supernatural power, isn't able to cover up, this, then it's possible that happens. And I'm with Jillian praying that the truth comes out. I hope that we know the truth one of these days, but even if we don't ever know the truth, the overarching message here is really what I think that we're supposed to understand. Like, we're supposed to understand that something has shifted. And I really do believe that. When I see that message, I'm not a Freemason. I'm not a enlightened one, I guess you could say. I'm enlightened underneath God's enlightenment, which I think is better.
Well, you might be a Freemason after this message.
I might be a Freemason.
You might be inaugurated by the mass consensus. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, you never know. I mean, a lot of people think that about me, but I know I'm not. And you guys can look. I mean, there are secret societies out there that are more hidden than the Freemasons, but I'm definitely not a Freemason. But either way, like I said, I don't always discount stuff just because it says 33. I'm not going to get it tattooed on my body. I'm not going to wear a shirt that says 33. But if somebody's age is 33 or their name equals 33, it doesn't automatically mean anything. I mean, David's name might mean 33. Have you guys ever done that math before? My name might mean 33. I know mine doesn't. I've done the math before. But your name might be that. And one day if you die, or you all of a sudden, a fake, I don't know. So,
well, and it's just like God made the human body with 33 vertebrae.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. What is bad is how Freemasonry parallels that with their 33 degrees, and also the Kundalini Yoga. It raises the serpent fire up through the 33 degrees to the pineal gland. Yeah. You can see that which God did, which is right, and how it is perverted.
Yeah, and if we got to be reasonable here, there's a lot of people that they're just so unreasonable with this stuff. They can't truly understand, wrap their mind around the fact that these symbols, God might have even put them here, may have put it on the heart of the man to put 33, may have put it on the heart of his mother to name Charlie Kirk 30, this. I mean, all of these things matter. I mean, there's things that aren't controlled. You can't control the gematria of an event or of a time or any of that. You can't control that. You can't control any of these things. Like, this is only a supernatural power could control some of these things. And we've seen that before with other incidents that are just so many, with Donald Trump, for instance, his name, all of the things surrounding the man. I mean, my goodness, you couldn't set that up if you wanted to. It'd be like,
oh my goodness.
But anyways, David, did you have anything you wanted to add? I think I have a video I was going to play of ballistics that I think that there's some people that might need to see. And I'm going to play that first before we go on. And David, if you had something you want to add before this, then please do. But I have this, and then one more thing that I want to share with people and then we're done. So did you have anything you wanted to share about what we talked about?
Well, just a couple things that are rattling around my noodle is the scripture that we've talked about a lot of times here on the Midnight Ride from 2nd Esdras about the eagle head on the right side eating the left. And that has always been in my mind, and everything we see could be moving toward a very literal fulfillment of that. And something else is the scripture in Ecclesiastes where it says that the thing that has been is that which shall be. And this kind of has a JFK feel to it. You know, it's very reminiscent of that which we saw in the late 60s with the two Kennedys, Martin Luther King, and it's just kind of got that same feel. It's like, here we go again. And there's patterns to history, and there's patterns and there's cycles, and a lot of that is because there are demonic forces that are repeatedly trying to achieve an agenda. So, and another scripture it comes to mind is how Jesus said that there's nothing covered that won't be revealed. And a lot of these things could be God putting things there to help us reveal and understand. So we really are it's a little premature to be jumping to a whole lot of conclusions right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that here's no matter what conclusion you jump to, everything that's shown before us is meant to happen. So you can think it's bad, it's good. It doesn't really matter who puts the information out there. It's out there. You know what I'm saying? So like jumping to the idea that just because you think it's bad could be bad, but it could also be something that is ordained to happen. I mean, things like this happen, dude. I mean, Stephen was stoned, Paul was murdered. They were crucified. Some of the disciples upside down, beheaded. I mean, this kind of stuff happens. Whether or not he's a disciple or any of those things, I have no idea. All I know is that man did a lot. He's a symbol of a disciple anyway.
Yeah, I think it's very fair to say he was killed for emulating Christian values.
I think that's safe to say.
That's the very least that we could say about it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to play this video, Ballistics, because I'm going to say this, that viewer discretion, it's not going to show the whole video, but it is the best ballistics video that I found. I listened to a couple other people, like I think Mike Adams on it. I watched it frame by frame, and I agree with this guy that I'm getting ready to play, called Charlie, or what's his name? You're going to find out when the video, but he's, I listened to him about some of this stuff, this kind of technical things, because he understands it. Adams, normally I like what he has to say, but I don't think he really took into account everything, and so I'm going with this guy's video because it makes sense, and you can kind of see exactly what he's talking about. And I don't know if we're going to play the whole video, but I'm going to play part of it so people can see what I saw. I mean, I looked at every frame of these videos, like, and when I talk about frame, I'm talking about one little piece at a time. And so a lot of these people saying it's AI or whatever, maybe the video you saw is AI, but the actual video that is going around, I mean, it could be AI, I guess, but there was a ton of people that saw and watched it happen, a ton of videos from different angles. For it to be AI and all the people in the video to be AI is, man, talk about pulling off something. Is it impossible? Maybe not, but I don't think it's AI. Either way, let's watch the video.
And that's an issue too, because what I can tell you is that this is either a picture and or video footage that I can't find anywhere. And it is clearly a completely different perspective than the footage that most of us have seen, this one. You can see right here, this is a screenshot, not even a second before he shot. Not only is the person that whoever took this picture or the video footage much closer to Charlie, it is clearly much further to his right, all right, or as the viewer's left. So it's a completely different piece of footage that we have no time frame for. So I just don't know if something changed in between there. Now, I do think it would be at least a little unlikely that he would go out there without body armor and then they would pull him off stage and then he would go put body armor on. But it's not out of the realm of possibilities. And given that right now we don't have any continuous footage, we don't know if that happened or didn't happen. If you were there and you have information, please send us an email, services@ParamountTactical.com. I would love to interview some people that are there and to get your story and to get your perspective of what happened. outside of even this. Now, the other problem that I have with this picture is just because we can see his nipple doesn't rule out the fact that he could possibly be wearing body armor. All right, so this is a extra large plate. And if I'm sitting just like Charlie is right there, and I have this centered, you still can see my nipple. So that doesn't completely rule it out. And I also want you to notice that it does look like there's a little bit of a contouring effect going on. I would almost bet, regardless of whether or not he's wearing body armor or not, that he has some sort of thin compression shirt underneath his main t-shirt. Now, even with an extra large plate, you can still see the outline of a nipple, especially with Charlie Kirk. He's 6'5", he's a big guy. Now, they do sell in, when you're dealing with low profile executive type protection like this, where you want the most amount of concealment possible, they do make much smaller plates. This is just a representation of an 8x10 plate. You can either get it sappy cut or even something like this. But you guys can see there's a lot of space between the plate and seeing my nipple. So just because we can see the nipple doesn't necessarily rule out him wearing body armor. Now, even I would argue against myself right here. If he was wearing some sort of plate or body armor in this particular picture, even if we could see the outline of his nipple, you would think you would also see the outline of some sort of body armor. Soft, metallic, plate, composite, whatever. But again, we don't know when this picture was taken, and we don't know if something's changed. Now, when we look at this shot sequence, at the exact moment everything took place, to me, we can clearly see a mass, some sort of vest or something like that underneath his shirt, move upward and then back down. We can see a fairly distinct edge. It goes down and then it settles even lower at the end of this. So as I see it right now, what we're left with is video footage and pictures that contradict one another. And there may be a very logical, good explanation that we're just not aware of right now. But let's just say I got it completely wrong. Let's say he wasn't wearing body armor. We're kind of left in bizarro world because there's nothing else that explains the physics and the ballistics that we see taking place in the video footage. And let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. So this picture right here, we see a couple things going on. So first of all, I would say it sure does look like there is an outline of a plate there. But the thing I want you to really focus on here is the fact that the left side of his t-shirt collar is pulled up almost to his left ear. That is really, really hard to explain if he took a direct shot to the neck. Now, I've heard a lot of people try to explain this away as saying, hey, it was a direct hit. And what we see here is just this is caused by an air turbulence or a vacuum effect of this 30 caliber round with a direct hit to the neck. Folks, that's just nonsense. A projectile flying through the air, even a 30 cal projectile, which is fairly large, doesn't displace enough air to create some sort of vacuum effect or air turbulence that would even come close to explaining what we're seeing right here. But you don't have to take my word for it. Let's check out this video from High Speed Ballistics. It's a really cool video. You should watch the whole thing, but this is them exploring the myth that a 50 cal creates so much of a vacuum effect that it doesn't even have to hit you to kill you.
We are within a bullet's diameter of that flower. The tiniest wrinkle from the bullet shockwave in the tissue. It did something.
It did something. So until it actually impacted a playing card,
yeah,
nothing.
So as you can see, even with a 50 cal, there is not enough air turbulence or vacuum effect that will even disturb a near miss of flower, much less explain what is going on with Charlie's shirt and this large amount of mass that looks like it's underneath his shirt moving upward and then coming back down. Now let's talk about the most significant problem with this idea that it was a direct hit to the neck. And that is the fact that if it was a direct hit to the neck is it's fairly thin, and it's 8 to 10 inches. It is not super dense. And even if that projectile hit his vertebrae, we would 100, it's a 30-06. Any rifle caliber, doesn't matter even if it hits his vertebrae, we would see an exit wound, and there is no evidence. And folks, the exit wound would be significantly larger than the entrance wound. We would see just as much profuse bleeding from the exit wound as we saw from the entrance wound. That doesn't exist. To me, that alone forces us to come up with some additional reasons as to what's going on with that projectile. And the only thing that makes sense is that whether it was a body armor, whether it was, I don't know, doesn't matter. That is that we have some sort of deflection that takes that projectile straight from this way up to that way. And I told you guys in the last video, if you look at, and I'm not even going to show it, like that entrance wound is much larger than it should be. The neck has a lot of elastic tissue. Typically what we'd see in an entrance wound is a very, very small wound. And probably, given the frame rate that we're looking at in the slow motion, we probably would, if it was a direct hit, we probably wouldn't even see an entrance wound at all in the video. But it opens up very large, very quick, and of course we have extremely profuse bleeding coming from his neck. But I do believe the reason that we have such a large entrance wound.
All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and shut that there. But this guy, I watched so many different ballistics videos, and if you haven't watched them, then you should if you really want to know, because there's a lot of people that are saying stuff and they really don't have any idea. And a lot of people saw an AI video that's been going around. I saw that AI video too. When I looked at it, I was like, what the heck is going on? It even had like the black dot moving around on his chest, so it was like clearly AI. His ring does switch fingers, which I did see that, but he has a hinged ring. I saw videos of him before this where he's literally moving his ring from finger to finger, which could account for what people are seeing there. I don't really know. But all I can say is this, like, ballistically, this makes the most sense to me. I watched different videos. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense because, as he was saying, I don't know if you guys heard that part, but a 30-06, I don't know if you ever shot a 30-06. All my deer hunters out there, raise your hand. You shoot a 30-06, it ain't going to ricochet off a collarbone. It ain't going to ricochet off of a neck bone. It's going to go right through and be done, especially at only 200 yards. So that's where I'm at on the whole thing. There's other things. David, do you have anything you want to add to this part of it? I got one more after this. And
Well, no, go right ahead, John.
all right, guys. So I'm gonna do this. Like, I'm gonna say this to you guys because this is really, if you don't listen to anything else I said today, I really hope you listen to this, because really all that matters in all of this is, in the end, what matters is when we stand before God, what is going to happen. This is what matters to me anyway. It should matter to you, because this is like literally determines the rest of the existence from here on out for eternity. So it does matter. One thing that I know that it's hard for people to understand, and I don't know why, it's just something, a human condition that we all have, where we trust people. And I don't want you guys to trust people naively. And I want you guys to have discernment. And part of that discernment isn't just a lot of people think, oh, I've got the gift of discernment, I can tell if somebody's bad or not, but they fall all the time and they're never right. So yeah, I don't think so. The truth is, discernment happens over time. It's something that you learn by dealing with people, and over time you learn this discernment. But the Bible tells us very clearly, how can we tell who's real and who's fake? And I think that right now is important more than ever, because friends will betray you. People who do not truly have Christ, that claim to have Christ, do not, and they will betray you. I promise you this. I can tell you from a personal experience that the people that behave the holiest, dress the holiest, and pretend like everybody else is doing something bad, they always got something to say about something somebody else is doing, they are the ones you have to watch out for. Red flag city. These people think they're righteous, but they have no idea what righteousness is. When in the Bible, there's a parable where a man goes into the temple and he's saying, oh, thank God I'm not like all these other sinners. Thank you for not making me like all these other sinners. And then there's the other man that doesn't even go up to the temple. He's got his head hung. He can't even look up to God because he knows he's a sinner. And Jesus said that man's justified, not that cocky, arrogant fool that thought he knew everything, that thought he was holy, thought he was righteous. Because anybody that has any wisdom at all, once they're a believer, knows that they're not righteous. I know it. I'm not. There's nobody I can tell you that man's a righteous man 100%. There's nobody I can tell you that about, except for Jesus. There was only one who was righteous from the gate till the end. Almost everybody else has their flesh still. that to this day to contend with. I don't care how many years you've been a believer. There's things in your head that go on in your head that nobody else knows about maybe than you. There's all these things that happen, and so you can't fool me. I've been a part of the church my whole life. I've seen the men that everybody think are the holiest and mightiest, and I've seen them fall. You know, I'm not claiming to go around and know everything about everybody's business, but I'll tell you right now that none of us are worthy of anything that we receive from our Father. And this is how you will know believers. This is very simple. Jesus laid it out so easy. There's nothing else he said about this, about how you'll know people other than this. He said, you'll know people in Matthew 7:16 by their fruit. What are the fruit? What are the fruits of the Spirit? Look them up if you don't know. But love, joy, peace, happiness, long-suffering, all of the things that are hard to come by in this world. Most people are irritated all the time. They're quick to anger. They don't have any love for anybody else. They're always trying to bash people. I mean, you see these channels out here just because I live in YouTube land. Their biggest video is a video bashing me. That's the biggest video they have on their channel. And then they call it a ministry. They call it a ministry. Okay, so there you go. Where's the love? Where's the fruit? Where's any of those things? None of it, because they falsely accuse, they do all this. I just watched a video the other day, David, to where a guy was saying that I believe in the rapture, that I know that the rapture is going to happen. He took a clip where I said that I'm not going to be mad if the rapture happens. I'm not going to argue with God about it, basically, is what I meant. And he was like, how could you even say that? And I'm thinking in my mind, like, are you going to argue with God if he rips you up out of this earth, and like you're going to argue with him and say, throw me back down there? I don't think so. But anyways, I digress on that. I'm not going to talk about that. But Matthew 7:16 says, you'll know them by their fruit. Do they have joy? Do they have love? Do they have peace? When you look around their life and you see their family, do their family look like they've been through the Haggard roller coaster, or do they look like they've been, divorced, moved along, don't know where they're at anymore? What's going on, right? Like you look at people and you see their fruit. It's not about what they say, because people can say anything. Father, they can say the best, longest prayers, and they can make them so good. They can dress to the T, boy. They can have the seats on flock, just ready to go. They can have the long dresses on, making sure all the cleavage is covered. But they can be a witch, or they can be a warlock. They can be somebody that's evil. In fact, the devil loves to hide there. And I'm not saying everybody that does those things is evil, but I'm saying the devil likes to hide there. He likes to monarch. He's like not a monarch, but like a reptile. They change like chameleons. They go where they think they can get the most victims. And because people are naive and they don't know what I'm telling you right now, we should all know it. They don't know that you judge people by their fruit. You look at people by their fruit, and that's how you'll know if they're real or they're not. One more that goes right hand in hand with it, but the people you'll see that always are in battles with other people, always trying to condemn other people, always doing this over petty stuff that they think is wrong. They don't have the love. John 13:35, the love for each other. I don't know about you guys, but I think it's time to put away petty nonsense that we've divided over for all of these years over stuff that just doesn't even freaking matter. Ultimately, is this person showing love? Are they showing all of the things, the joy of God? Are they out there doing the things that are of like a royal priesthood would do? Are they making disciples of nations? Are they doing holy sacrifices before the Lord? Are they servants to the people? Are they doing any of those things? And we can't all do exactly what each other do, but we're different parts of the body. We all have a different part that we're supposed to do. And if you can't have love for a brother that's out there trying to win people to Christ, even if he doesn't know everything, you didn't know everything at one time either, and you still don't, believe it or not. I don't know everything. David doesn't know everything, and you never will until you're done. We're all looking at through a glass darkly at this point, and we need to realize that salvation comes through the Messiah, through his blood, not based on something that you think you understand. None of that. We're based on the blood. And yes, Jesus gives us insights, and the Holy Spirit gives us things as we move through this. But guess what? At one time, I was somebody you guys would think, man, this guy is a hypocrite, or he's a Christian nationalist, he's a Zionist, he's all these things. Like, I didn't know any better, right? I'm just a young believer, and this is what I am. We need to give room for people to not know everything. If you think you know everything, the Bible says, and Paul says, if you think you know, any man thinks he knows not what he ought, which means you don't know crap. Basically, you think you know, but you really don't know. And so that we need to live in that space and realize that we need to give grace to others. And like David read that verse earlier, some people preach out of this, some people preach out of that. Let them preach. Let them preach. The disciples came to Jesus and they said, these guys aren't of us, but they're out there doing these things. He's like, let them do it. How are they going to speak evil of us when they're out there doing things in my name? I mean, come on, guys. We have to do this. And right now, division, 44,000 denominations plus. Every single denomination has about 50 divisions within it, and a church on every corner. We got to do better than this, man. Like what happened just recently is going to start. We're seeing it already happening. We've seen pastors getting, murdered recently in their own churches. We've seen people come up and just stab the pastor. This has been happening for weeks now, maybe months, maybe even a whole year. I don't even know, because we don't know everything that happens. But I can tell you this, guys, we have to be smart. Fruit and the love that they have. If they don't have that, I don't care how good they talk. I don't care how good they dress. I don't care how good they look. The fruit. Forget the external outfit and the external face and the little smooth words. Smooth words mean nothing. Every single person that has flattered me the most is the one that's also betrayed me the most.
Yeah.
Every single freaking time. If somebody comes in here, and forgive me, I'm getting fired up, and I apologize. I don't do this very often.
John. Go
I don't
ahead.
get fired up very
ahead.
often, but there was a guy that made a video recently. I remember telling John this when he left. I said, this guy is a flatterer, isn't he? This guy is a flatterer. And then years later, he's making a video. Like I met him one time. He's making a video about how we're evil or whatnot, and he's the one that planted those weird videos. So like flatterers, people, look out for these things. Flattery of the lips is what the scripture says. Read your freaking Bible, man. Read it. And you can quote me on that. Read your freaking Bible. Maybe I need a t-shirt that says that, whatever.
Yeah.
But read your freaking Bible. Read it because it tells you about all these people. The book of Proverbs tells you about all these people, and we need to know. And so anyways, that's my rant for the night, and I'm done with that rant. David, do you have anything you want to add before we kick ourselves off of here?
Yeah, as I say, don't just read your Bible, read your Bible. And that's good stuff, John. It's good stuff, and that's where we're at. And I tell you what, don't buy into the hate. Don't buy into the hate. And that's what Satan wants people to do. Pick a side, and he doesn't really care what side you pick, just so you hate.
Mm-hmm.
And don't buy into the hate. And just stay close to Jesus and let the fruit of the Spirit work through you, and it's going to be just fine.
Going to be just fine. I like that. It sounds like a good old proverb. And it is.
Everything's going to be all right.
It's going to be all right.
Well, is it time for the Pounder's Pound, John?
Oh, man, I think it might be time for the Pounder's Pound, David. I think we can do it.
All right, then. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. On the count of three, guys. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Boom!
Boom. Thank you guys so much for doing that. We appreciate it. Share this out if you can. I hope and pray that this helps somebody. I know there's a lot of people that are just going to be, it doesn't matter what I would have said. It would have been, it's evil no matter what I said. It doesn't matter. So we're not worried about that right now. What we're worried about is making waves in the kingdom of God, and I hope that you can see that in us. I hope that you understand that that is what we're trying to do. But if you don't understand it, it's okay with me too, because oftentimes the missions of people who do things for God, a lot of people don't get it. They look at it and they're like, man, this is crazy. So if you don't get it, it's okay too. But I promise you this, when it's all said and done, the smoke clears, those who are left standing will be left standing, whether you like it or not. You might have thought that person was a piece of crap, but guess what? They may be left standing when it's all said and done. So we hope we're still here when it's left standing. I hope you guys are too. David, end us out.
Well, as always, it's our great honor to be able to speak the Word of God into your life. We appreciate you so very much. And the Midnight Ride audience and the audience at FOJC, you are the most intelligent audience out there. And I really mean that. And we couldn't do what we do without you. And with that, until next Saturday night, 10 p.m. Central, a big high five and good night, everybody, from the Midnight Ride.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up, rise up, rise up.